Always good to hook up with Sean Pendergast from 610 AM Sports Talk in Houston in H-Town. He does the morning drive show, and you can follow him on X at Sean T. Pendergast, Pendergasd on X. And it's good to get him back on Coast to Coast. He was just at Texans camp. We'll talk about them in a second. I want to start with the Astros because they're on fire. They've won 6 in a row. Bregman and Alvarez, player of the week in the AL. You just told me that Verlander has looked good in his rehab and is close. So they took over first in the West last night from Seattle, but that's kind of been going back and forth. I thought, the big series in Seattle was going to be more beneficial to them. It really wasn't. But here they are, a half game up, and they're hot, and they've won 6 straight, 7 of 10. What do you think of what you're seeing from them lately?
Yeah, it's been good, Scotty. They went through a little bit of a lull with the bats, a week or so ago. They actually play much, much better, this team, on the road than they do at home. And that goes all the way back to the end of last year when they were in that dogfight for the division, and it looked like, boy, the schedule was real favorable. They had the A's and the Royals, a whole bunch of games at home. And they went like 2-9 on a homestand down the stretch. For whatever reason, this team plays better on the road, and they play up to and down to the level of their competition this year. Some of the series of late that they've actually had a lot of success. They won a series against the Dodgers. They swept the Orioles, about 6 weeks ago. They've beaten a bunch of teams that would be in the play. They swept the Red Sox in Boston this weekend and tamed the hottest offense in baseball. So it's not record-wise, it's not where the Astros are used to being, but you can see kind of you can still see somewhere in there the team that has made it to 7 straight ALCSs. And a lot of the things they were dealing with early in the year were injuries to the pitching staff. And they've just had some huge performances over the last couple months from some of the young pitchers. Hunter Brown in particular has really been like an ace over the last couple of months. And now you start to see Spencer Arrighetti putting some good starts together. Ronel Blanco's done some good things. They're going to get Verlander back here pretty soon. He's obviously an older guy, but and then we'll see with Kikuchi gets his 3rd start tonight. So it's come together in a very strange way for them. But as you talked about, I was listening to you guys in the previous segment. It's still the old guard of Altuve and Bregman and Jordan that getting it done with the bats that are ultimately going to be what probably carries this team.
What's the deal with Tucker?
Man, I wish we knew that the Astros are this era of Astros baseball, of all the teams that I've not only covered but rooted for, might be the most dodgy and kind of dishonest when it comes to sharing information on injuries. We've been given a roller coaster ride with this Tucker thing, with this foul ball off the shin, which I was at that game sitting in the second row about 10 feet from where it happened. And he actually tried to stay in that game in June 3rd. And now here we are. We're coming up on September soon, and he's still out. So that injury's obviously been pretty serious. We got kind of our first glimpse, I guess, at what the truth might look like yesterday, because some video surfaced of him working out in the outfield in Tampa before the game between the Astros and the Rays. He's obviously on the injured list, but he's traveling with the team again. And he still looks like he's limping around on that thing. So I don't think if we see Tucker this year, at this point, it certainly won't be until September because he's still limping around. And even once he gets fully healthy, he's going to have to go do some rehab baseball in Sugar Land or Corpus Christi with a minor league affiliate. So that's a big one. Verlander and Tucker, it's like you're getting back a quasi ace and an MVP candidate if they're both able to come back healthy.
You talked about some of the big games they've won against good teams, and this streak started when they won the series against the Rangers at Globe in Arlington. Then they went to Fenway, as you mentioned, and swept. Now you're in the Trop down in Tampa. You're seeing this kid Caminero tonight, and Kikuchi's going tonight. And then I think they wrap it up there tomorrow. Then they go back to Minute Maid, and they have the lowly White Sox who kicked the Yankees' ass last night. But you got the lowly White Sox who you should crush. And then you got Boston again in Houston. Do you feel, as I told you before, like on this show, I've been riding the Astros for 2 months that they're going to win the West. I said over and over on his show, they're the best team. They're the best team in the division. They're one of the best teams in baseball. When they get their act together, they're gonna win that division. And to me, being up a half game is I'm chewing nails. Are they gonna come through and win the division with all these games they got coming up at home?
Yeah, I think they are. And I say that even after talking about how they've kind of struggled at home of late and then late in the season last year. But I think they're just too talented, and they've had to overcome so much just to get here. They started out 12-24 this year. So, I mean, that's obviously that chunk of baseball is an outlier for this team. I rarely have they gone 12-24, if ever, during this run going back to 2017. So that's a total outlier. Since they started 12-24, they've given up the least runs in baseball, and now they're getting Verlander back. The bullpen is starting to round into form, and at least 2 starts in the Kikuchi trade, even though they got widely panned for it for giving up the prospects they gave up, 2 starts in, the Kikuchi trade looks pretty good. Now we'll see what happens tonight. But the Astros have done an amazing job this year in terms of coaching with the pitching and with like Framber Valdez. They've started to have him use his curveball more. When Hunter Brown had a 10 ERA through May, Alex Bregman sat down with him on the team plane and said, dude, you need to throw your sinker more. And he started throwing his sinker more. And now the guy has a quality start every time he goes out there. Kikuchi comes into the building and they said, dude, I'm oversimplifying it here, Scotty, but he threw his changeup like 10% of the time in Toronto. And they said, you need to throw that changeup more and use it more and, do it strategically. He's basically tripled the use of his changeup, and now he's come in and he's given them 2 really good starts since coming into the building. So they've been able to kind of piece the thing together and kind of muck it through June. And then, since the start of July, they've been one of, if not the best teams in the American League. If they're fully healthy and they've been playing the way they're playing, especially if they get Tucker back, then I think if you've got them winning the division, I think you're in really good shape. I think you're in good shape anyways. They've seen this movie, so many times now down the stretch in September. No team is more battle-tested in September and October than the Houston Astros.
So you were at Texans camp. I got a couple minutes here, respectfully. They kicked the Steelers' ass. The expectations are through the roof for this football team after what Stroud did last year. Can they live up to all of it?
The schedule's really tough. They step up big time in weight class this year in terms of the quarterbacks that they play and just the teams that they play. They're getting a first-place schedule now, and those 3 variable games in the schedule for them are Baltimore, Kansas City, and Dallas. And they're all primetime games and Christmas games and things like that. I do think they're built for this, though. CJ Stroud, you watched him. He's mature beyond his years. He's battle-tested from back at Ohio State and the rookie year he had. And I think the big key is DeMeco Ryans, who just does a really good job of filtering out all that noise, good and bad, with this team. And even though they play a harder schedule, they've made major upgrades on offense with Stephon Diggs, who has fit in incredibly. He's been their best offensive player in training camp. I've been to every practice so far other than the 3 they had in Ohio last week. He's been their best player offensively, and Danielle Hunter has been an absolute monster defensively for them, both in practice and in that Steelers game on Friday. So they've put a roster together that is absolutely up for this challenge, no question about it.
Yeah, I watched the game. As you know, I'm a Steeler fan. I watched the game. I wanted to puke. I mean, I thought the Texans pushed him around. I mean, they roughed up Fields. He fumbled a couple snaps. I thought Houston didn't care about the preseason. Meanwhile, I thought they looked fantastic. I will tell you, I don't trust Steph Diggs. I think he's cancer waiting to happen. He's going to snap at some point. A leopard doesn't change his spots. I worry about him. He's fantastic, great player. But once he's not happy, he turns into a jerk. I hope he doesn't ruin that team.